men are entering a cage. They are being committed to a state prison. Each one of them has a... Now they are leaving society behind and going into a new world that has its own values. They are losing their freedom. To some, this is a new experience. To some, this has happened before, and it may happen again. But always, entering prison stuns a man and dazes him.
Okay, man, I'm going to give you an envelope piece. What's your name on it? Would you put your property that you got in your pockets inside the manila envelope? Any rings, wallet?
As they surrender their property, small things like rings, wallets, half-finished packs of cigarettes, they may feel for the first time that they are surrendering their individuality. To become a number and a piece of space inside a cage.
Take all the cigarettes out of your pocket. Everything you have. Would you get undressed, please?
But there is more to give up. They must enter this new world just as they entered the free world outside when they were born. Naked, carrying nothing. The process is necessary and is not intended to be demeaning. They must be separated from possible contraband. They must leave behind as much as possible of the life that brought them here.
No socks, no clothing whatsoever goes inside.
It is an experience few of us would seek out, and yet there are today well over 3 million Americans walking the streets who have at one time or another in their lives been committed to a penal institution.
Straight up in the air. Right straight up, right to see your armpit. Throw them down, let's see in the mouth. Take your teeth out, please. Okay. Roll the tongue. See the teeth? What is your age? 21. Give me your right hand. Okay, would you sign right here, please? Is there anything wrong with you at this time that we should see a doctor about immediately?
No.
Are you now a narcotics user or have you been?
No.
Are you an alcoholic?
No.
Are you married, divorced, or single?
Married.
How old is your wife?
She's 27.
Is she in good health?
Yes.
You have some children?
Yeah.
How many? Two. Are they in good health?
There are at this moment over 350,000 people inside. Each year more than 100,000 go in. Each year about the same number come out. Perhaps half of those to return again someday. What is all this for? The subject is vast and complex. It could not be exhausted in a dozen broadcasts. But there may be a way to develop insight if we can stick to one question so basic it seldom gets asked. What are prisons for? What do we intend to accomplish by putting men in cages?
This is Roger Mudd for CBS Reports. When you think about it, there are just a limited number of things a penal system can be asked to do. In the first place, it can be asked to punish those who break the rules. Paying a debt to society is a familiar phrase, and societies all through the ages have collected such debts from the offenders. But most civilized societies have not been content with the punishment. They want the punishment to have a purpose. And that purpose might be to prevent individuals from offending again and to deter others from ever committing a crime. So now we have two, to punish and to deter. There is a third akin to these, and it is simply to take the criminal out of society, to remove him from temptation, to put him on ice, to retire him. All these objectives have one thing in common. They line society up against the offender, trying to control him by menacing him. Most nations, including our own, want to move a step beyond this. They want to move closer to the prisoner and try to change him so he will not offend again. This gives rise to another purpose of the prison system, rehabilitation. What is our penal system like? A good way to begin finding out may be to discover what the prisoners are like. What is our system up against? The prisoners can tell us.
What do you think lies behind you being in this place?
Got off to a wrong start, a young kid on that. I come in here when I was 19. I've been here 16 years.
16. Robbery with
Robbery with a gun, then murder after I got here.
and murder after you got here.
Yes, sir.
Whom did you murder?
Well, I was convicted of murdering an inmate.
So what kind of a sentence do you have now?
Life.
And what does that mean in practical terms?
Forever.
Means forever.
My case, forever.
You're sure of that?
From every indication you get from the authority, yes.
All right, what does life look like to you now?
Very dark.
No ray of light.
No, I wouldn't say there was.
You get mad, angry?
No, you don't get mad. You just, well, let's take it as just one of these things and go on.
Yeah, but one of those things in one life is more than too much.
There's a lot of difference, but in a place like this, your mind gets stagnated. You more or less, you just figure, well, I got it to do, I got to do it, so do it.
It's kind of hard to figure how a guy who, on the surface, is so amiable could get into such a fix as you're in.
Oh, well, my amiability has become, in the past 5, 6 years. When I came in, I was pretty tough. Pretty honest.
You were tough and ornery.
Yeah.
Were you also mean?
Yes, very good. I was young, wild, didn't care.
I really don't know what made me go wrong. Except I started out when I was a kid, stealing little things, and then I progressed. And when they put me in a federal correctional institution, it was the nearest thing, if not a penitentiary. It was the nearest thing to a penitentiary. There were adults in there, and I had to fight my way through it. And I got beat up many, many times, very badly. I didn't know anything really about crime until I went there, and they schooled me. And when I came out, instead of stealing a car or a bicycle or what have you, I was ready for the gun. They taught me that there's only one way to go, and that's with a gun. That's where the money is. So when I came out, I picked up a gun, and I've been in and out. Well, I've been out 3 times in my entire life since I started, and I first fell when I was 14.
How old are you now?
I'm 32. And look 52.
When I first came to prison here some 5 years ago, I came here and I was under the impression that someone owed me something. This was where I felt, more or less that I had been done a great misjust by being sent here. But actually, no one owed me anything, But I had to find this out for myself. I had to go through a couple of years of battering back and forth with myself and the institution to find out really what was happening.
How did you find out?
Well, after I got 2 or 3 prisoners with custody, which is the institutional police here, and found out that they didn't care whether or not I did 10 or 15 years or 20 years. They didn't even for you how much time you wanted. But they weren't going to help me unless I helped myself.
So what are you going to do when you get out?
Well, now, I have a whole lot going for me. I have vocational trade, which I've finished here. I'm a butcher now. I'll go out of here as first step of finish, second step of finish. I can go out in a journeyman in some field of the trade, which is a boner. I can go journeyman boner.
The world inside is a world men can adapt to, one way or another. They have little choice. Some of them are lucky enough or sensible enough to be able to make an adjustment that can be useful to them when they enter the free world again. Many institutions try to help them do this. Try to give them work that will prove of some use to them someday. Prisoners teach other prisoners. The jobs of the place get done. This idea of trying to improve a man while he serves his sentence is relatively new. These boys are doing time in a Georgia correctional institution that was less than 15 years ago as tough and unpleasant as could be arranged, where the food was bad, where the discipline was harsh and punitive, and where nothing of any use at all was learned. All men were regarded as dangerous and treated as if they were a breed apart who might never enter society again. There are many prisons run that way today. But there is also a groundswell of change in penology. New methods are being tried. Some people are beginning to think life in prison should help prepare men for life outside. That adjustment of thought is not an easy one to make. We have all been brought up to look with fear at convicts without thinking of them as individuals or as men we may someday meet. Father Richard Cronin, a new chaplain at Missouri State Penitentiary, analyzes this feeling of fear and its implications.
Well, of course, this is a natural fear we all have. When you hear of a person who has done time, invariably, even when I came in here myself, there was a natural fear of the individual. And this was a thing I had to overcome by association with them. We're always afraid of the unknown qualities, and once we get familiar with them, familiar with the danger, with the attitudes, we find that these were all imaginary, that we had built up to an extent. Granted, in some that we can have a real fear of them, maybe because of their sociopathic nature, but with the vast majority we don't have to fear them. And I think this has been exaggerated in society, and people are not educated as regards penal work. They have invariably it's apathy. The walls hide the problems. We can forget about them, we're safe. But they forget that 90% of the men will be returning to society.
There are things the walls should not be allowed to hide. This is the Harris County Jail in Houston, Texas. It is a monument to prison thinking of the past. Here men are locked up in a cage with nothing to do but wait. No communities are proud of such arrangements, but many local jails throughout the nation with no money, antiquated buildings, not enough staff, too many prisoners, are able to do little better than this. The cage is a great leveler. All men are alike here. Some may be in for a few days on a drunk charge. Some may be here for years on graver charges. In practical terms, some of them are harmless people. Others may be dangerous people. There's no way of telling, for all are lumped together under plain punishment. This raises a primary question about the functions of a prison. Does punishment in itself have much effect on men who break the law? Reporter Warren Wallace talks to a man at Missouri State.
Checks. That's my greatest trouble. Writing checks. It's your weakness? Yes, sir. That's all I've ever been in penitentiary for, is writing checks.
Do you find that people are gullible?
Yes, they are, sir.
How do you account for this?
I don't know. I can cash a check most any place where anybody else couldn't, and they just cash it. And if I'm short of money or depressed or want a drink and don't have any money or need something I have to buy in material or anything in my work, if I don't have the money, I buy it.
Well, now, when this happens, don't you know in your heart of hearts that you're going to get caught?
Sir, it's hard to explain, but, you know, it never crosses my mind. I never think about it. The trouble, you know. I never think about that till I get in jail. And then I think about it. It don't worry me. I know it's wrong, sure, but I do it anyway. Of course, I try not to get caught and hope I don't get caught. But
Well, the way you talk, why, it's just going to be a revolving door, isn't it?
well, it looks that way. But there's got to be a stopping point somewhere. And I think it's up to me to stop it.
makes him lonely in a crowd, lonely in a place where no one can ever be truly alone. And yet neither this nor any punishment that has ever been devised seems to solve the problem of recidivism, of repeaters who offend again and again and are caught and put away again and again. Among any group of prisoners like these lining up for lunch at the Texas State Prison in Huntsville, there are many who will come back again to this or another institution after they are released. It is not known how many, but a conservative estimate would put the number of repeaters at over 50%. There's no way of telling how many ordinary citizens are kept from crime by the fear of going to jail. But the behavior of the convict population suggests that neither punishment nor the prospect of punishment does much to deter a man inclined to commit a crime. In fact, inside each prison, there exists a smaller model of the problem presented to society at large. For within the walls of any institution, there is always a percentage of men who seem to be bound to get into trouble over and over again, no matter what is done to them. They are repeaters in another sense, persistently uncooperative, men who spend most of their time in maximum security cells. Reporter Wallace, again at Missouri State.
You're in maximum security now. You can't leave your cell.
No, sir.
You don't get any exercise.
No, sir.
Don't see the outside world.
No, sir.
Don't see your fellow prisoners.
Once a week, shower day, come by the cell. Like old homecoming week.
You what?
Like old homecoming week.
When they go marching by.
Yeah.
So what do you do to pass the time?
Oh, just sit around reading newspapers. So they give us reading material down there.
You think?
explain more about the basic function of a prison. These men are exercising at San Quentin in California. On the evidence, it does not seem that special punishment or punishment in general has a lasting, useful effect on them. Now they are on ice, out of circulation. Yet someday they will, most of them, come back into society. They will know more about punishment than they did when they came in, but they will also